Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh my gosh, I so want you to have the capability that is built into your body, built into your mind, built into your spirit. It's one of the gifts that I had early on as a child, is to have an incredible grandmother that constantly pointed out what was working and the habits that weren't, and things that I needed to let go of. Years later, I got to go to medical school and I had to let go of a lot. As a Pakistani-born woman, I chose and got accepted to an Indian medical school. This incredible Indian medical school, it was a gift, third best medical school in the country of India. A subset of that school, right, the third best medical school, had an international program that I tested into and got into by miracles. And it's amazing if you are able to let go, if you're able to really generate from the inside out connection to your heart, connection and flow from all the ways that you're designed to thrive and succeed. Today's class is for you. My name's Dr. Sarah Larsen. I am founder of Miracle Makers Academy, co-founder of that. The beauty of being a co-founder of Miracle Makers Academy is I have help. The amazing Greg Larsen co-founded it with me. We first found a way once a week. It was really, really important to me to be able to give the wisdom, give what was given to me to as many people, to anyone that needed help. As a medical doctor, I chose that field so I could work in non-government organizations in the third world and within the United States. And what's amazing is I really got to live out my dream, live out being of service in the most incredible ways. And I also, along the way, did not miss out on my personal dreams, because by the time I thought, I had a thought and a habit of thinking that love, true love, meant true sacrifice. If I truly loved and wanted to be of service, I had to sacrifice my own dreams. I'm so grateful that this is something that I haven't had to sacrifice, right? Quote unquote, sacrifice the small, still voice within me that got me into medical school, got me into and treating and healing people in miraculous ways in the field. That small, still voice also made sure that I got to realize my dream of being in a family of my own, making children, and being able to live a life that I'm truly inspired by. And I hope gives to you, I know gives to all of the clients and friends that I've worked with. It's so, so extraordinary. Thank you. Or? Oh, I love cream. Okay. Milk. Yes. Thank you so much. Yay. I've had an extraordinary journey with being able to share these stories, the skill sets, this amazing possibility that awakens within you. Back in 2017, right before 2018, we launched a program, a coaching program. And that coaching program brought in so many people that I didn't have any space or time to bring in new people and teach them part of what you're going to learn today. In coaching programs, year-long mentorships and like apprenticeships, these year-long working together, right? Year-long working, you get to learn and see what thoughts are limiting you, what your habits are. You get assessed in the regular sense as well as within the senses, and knowing the biases or knowing the limits that are out there in general and the limits that are within you. And so when we do the reading part, I really hope that you will ask so you will know what could possibly be missing. What is it that is required for you to let go? The science of letting go of your habits. What is a habit? And the term habit originally meant dress or attire. And it's so important that now it denotes both the physical and the mental aspects of that. It's so important that you be able to know for yourself. And this is one of the things that coaching with someone that really loves bringing out the best, can see what the best possibility is, can help you set up the path. One of the gifts of that is you get to kind of like empty out your closet and only have the best of what you love and bring in more of the things, the core, heart aligning things into your life. And so again, please ask those questions at the very end, right? What is the habit that you're wearing that might be that is the defining one at this time, at this moment in your life? We're going to go through 10. With given time today, we'll go through 10 of the thoughts that you're wearing, like clothing, that affect your behavior that you might not even be aware of. In other words, your habits fit into your subconscious and into your whole mind, body in such a manner that it's like the clothing that you wear. Habits are often protective mechanisms and times that you go to sleep. There's a great book by Charles Duhigg, Duhigg. Anyway, I will share his wisdom, the science of letting go, in today's talk. And a lot, if you want to change your life, if you want to step into the next best version of yourself, you've got to have the awareness, one, of where you want to get to, right? You've got to have the awareness of what you actually want. People that know what they actually want get there, especially when you write it down. You've also got to step into this understanding that if you had the mental, physical, emotion understanding of it, you would already be there. I want to say that another way. Just because you know where you want to go, right? There are parts of yourself, parts of you that you become aware of. There's only 2 days of the week. There's only 2 days of the week where you're powerless, right? 2 days of the week. So the first day of the week that you're powerless is yesterday. Yesterday, right? You can do nothing about it, the powerlessness in that. And also, unless you're willing to take a look at your habits and what you in particular have to let go, there's nothing you can do about tomorrow. Today is and now is the only time that you've got. So there are 2 days that you're powerless, yesterday, and the thoughts that are not serving you, the places, the habits they show whenever you're engaging in a habit, blood flow to regions of your brain decrease. So for example, if you are a driver and you drive from home to a particular place and you forget like the whole drive, it's somewhere you've gone a dozen times. If you take the same walk every day and you go from point A to point B, you might not forget the details. The habit of that turned off biologically in your body, turned off particular regions in your brain. The things and the food and the way that you talk and connect with people, the way that your body feels, the way that your friendships and your purpose and your mission go in life are all affected by your habits or these invisible layers to you. So where do you want to get to? What are the 7 areas of your life that you can really make a difference in? What are those 7 areas? The most important aspect of yourself in a lot of ways is your physical self. If your physical self is not vital and an instrument that continues to tune better and better, you're going to miss out on much of the opportunities and possibilities that you're wanting to create with your habits. I want to say that another way. When diabetes type 3, there was a time that we had a condition called diabetes type 3. It existed for a short period of time. The diabetes type 3 was really dementia moving into Alzheimer's. And they found that parts of your body, the insulin or the delivery of sugar easily came to the brain and deposited itself in the brain and turned off your ability to think and remember and create new memories. I want to say that another way. Your body is so intelligent that if you've got habits that are not consistent with the continuation of life, your body creates dis-eases like dementia and craving of that food that causes the type 3 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is juvenile. It's in the genetics. And we are now, science is now rewriting DNA. There's an instrument called the CRISPR that can rewrite it. So type 1 diabetes will go away soon enough. Type 2 diabetes, adult onset, right? Type 3, this type that the parts of you that the stories, the past, or anxieties about the future get turned off, and you crave particular foods. So what came first? Right? The body craving or the challenged situation? I want to say that another way. When you put yourself and have habits that continue to create challenging situations in your life, your body shuts down certain areas, craves certain foods to wake your intelligence up. So if you're not physically feeling vital, your body is doing that. It is there, and it's not your fault. It's doing this so that you will wake up to and change your habits. 7 areas we cover in the coaching program, and we'll start with an assessment, right, over the year. And today, any one of these 7 areas, I'd love for you to ask me about. If your love life is not juicy and stable and growing, what is a juicy love life? I've got that defined for myself. It's so beautiful. For me, a juicy relationship is where I feel things, new and exciting sensations, deep, deep love within myself. That's juicy to me. Each person, you have what's juicy to you. I love live music. I love being able to go on adventures together. That's juicy. And then stable, right? Staying ability, staying able. You're able to ride the roller coaster. When you first meet your potential love, you notice all of the similarities. There's magnetism there. Then you notice all of the differences. There's repulsion there. And then you go into this divine dance of integrating and making the similarities and differences juicy and exciting and lifting together. In friendship, right? In your friends. I love empowering my clients and friends with opportunities. This is one of the greatest gifts, being a miracle maker and being in a coaching program, is the opportunities that I get. I love to share them as quickly as possible with those that will benefit the situation, will benefit you, right? Friendship, empowering, lifting up, and friendships that will empower you and lift you up. It's the habits. If you're not having a lot of friendships in your life that are growing, that you're able to give more to, that are able to give more to you. It's one of the great things within Miracle Makers, being on purpose and knowing what you're here to do, and what you're here to do today, not tomorrow, not like really understanding what is your purpose. And when you open and unlock the purpose of today, all of the work and everything possible for you tomorrow becomes so beautiful and available. Are you financially stable and creating wealth? That's the other, right? Your purpose today, enhance, financially stable, creating wealth, spiritual life. Are you on your mission? And this all comes back to habit. So extraordinary that you're able to create new habits, and it's like having a new way of showing up in the world. The 10 habits for you that we're going to cover generally today, and we'll dive into one or two of those when we take a look in the private part a little bit later on in this class, and the science of letting go, the habit, right? Your habits. There is this thing called for you. It's so beautiful the way that it shows up, right? I want to say that another way. It's so important to say your life is showing up with the habit of confirmation bias. What's confirmation bias? Number one, we're going to talk about this and share the tendency to easily accept information that confirms your point of view and rejects information that doesn't support it. So every one of us, you, me, we're making meaning out of every experience. You have a habit of making every experience fit into and confirm what you already believe. This is why coaching programs work so well. And within Miracle Makers, within the Academy, you learn how to go from the child into the young adult into the miraculous adult, how that works generally for everyone. And then, of course, within the private coaching, you get to see and experience what you don't already know about yourself. And within a group, you get to practice. You get to practice who you're becoming, and that practice and that vibration and others holding you in the field this way, and especially working with someone, I can tell you what your bias to yourself is, what the habitual way that you see yourself. And for most, the tendency is for most amazing people, there's the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is the tendency for incompetent people to overestimate their competency, and very competent people to underestimate their competency. It took me years to really, because I had a bias of the way that I saw myself, the confirmation over and over again of not being intelligent, right? I had this bias, I had this habit of seeing myself. And the feedback over and over and over again was, oh my God, you're so competent. You're so capable. You got into the third best med school. You've done great. You delivered 300 babies in the field. You've helped extraordinary people and they worked with and had choices of the best. And yet, for me, right, this Dunning-Kruger effect, until I really began doing the practice day by day of taking off that clothing, taking off the habit of seeing myself as not capable. It's like, oh my God, I can do surgery. I can keep people. On the way back from Costa Rica, this year I went to Costa Rica with a group, and it was a terrible experience. The person, the group, the place that I went to, I do not recommend it. It's so funny. I love Costa Rica. I recommend Costa Rica. I recommend, and I really feel it's important to speak well and speak kindly of all the experiences. But the place that I went to in the group, just they were incompetent and thought they were competent. And they put everyone on that trip at risk. And I'm just so grateful that I was there. And at that moment, again, it was during the work of taking the feeling of incompetence of my own off and feeling how confidently it was an incredible experience there in Costa Rica with this incompetent group of people trying to lead it in a manner that would serve the group that was there. The incompetent leaders of that experience in that place, I tried to educate and love them back into seeing this, and they just were angry and not having it, and scammers. Long story short, when I got on the airplane to come back, right there next to me was a woman that needed a medical doctor, needed the competence that I provided. And I was taking off the layers of this awful experience and asking for and wanting to be of greatest service. And in the past, when things like that had come up, right, where the challenge of how do I see myself versus how others see me, in the past, I would go with how others saw me as rather than how I know myself to be. Finally, after the trip to Costa Rica, what a gift to get. I was on an airplane and I kept this incredible woman alive between Guatemala and the United States. And I know when we got off the plane and what the EMTs and what the pilot said, during the flight, the pilot said, "Oh my God, there's no place for us to land. Our plane is too big for any of the small airports below us. And if we try and land, we could crash and everyone's at risk." And it was an incredible experience of taking off the habit of seeing myself as not capable, of not that, like on that plane, I was apologizing, and at every moment, the doctors, the EMTs that got us, the people around us that heard the conversation were like, "Thank you, you're doing a great job." When we got off the plane, I took off the habit of seeing myself as incompetent, right? And really received how competent I am from being a medical doctor, from being a medical intuitive, from being able to change energy and save lives and save experiences. No one else could do it for me. I had to do it for myself. And I'm so utterly grateful to the girls, to the retreat leaders in Costa Rica, right? Their competent way of seeing their incompetence woke me up to my own competence. I want to say that another way, right? I want to say that you are creating the exact events around you to make sure that you wake up to your own, what you're here to do. I want to say the first one, right? That first habit of confirmation, whatever you keep telling yourself about yourself, you can now see it in your energy field. Heart Math Institute says and demonstrates you're going to attract the exact events. So I attracted a bunch of incompetent people to show me that they were competent, right? And my love for service, I show up in service. Such a gift to get that new framing, new ability that Dunning-Kruger a fact. It's happening in your life in certain areas. You don't see how brilliant you are. You've shut off your ability to see that sense of yourself. Oh my gosh. And so we go into the third, which is functional fixedness. So the science of letting go of habits says, one, you're going to confirm what you believe. Two, you're going to be competent in certain areas and incompetent in other areas, but you've got to get really good at seeing yourself. Functional bias is the bias that limits you, a person, from being able to utilize an object or an idea other than the way it's traditionally used. I remember the first time I heard a guitar being played, and the guitar, it was so beautiful when they started pounding it like a drum. Right? It was not the functional way. It actually moved my heart. Everything in the world that's been created is created for a purpose. And you yourself, right? The you that's you was created for a purpose. And each one of the stories, each one of the habits, each one of the things that you do, you've got a traditional way, a fixedness around it. And you can help people in your life that have this functional fixedness as well. As soon as you can see it, right? I love this. As soon as you can see the habit, as soon as you can see what's going on, you can let it go. So that the experience in Costa Rica, right? Being able to understand, wow, I really let people with love come in, and my functional way of seeing their functional fixedness on what group coaching looks like, what their event looks like, what certain aspects of a person are used for. I want to say that another way. We used to look at the coffee bean, the cacao bean, the thing, and you could only make a certain potion out of it. Now we make kava, we make old ceremonies we go into and are able to use one item for so many different things. In medicine, there are, for example, some of the diabetes medicine can be used for other situations, skin clearing. Some of the steroid medicine, or if you've ever had someone talk to you about street drugs, right? Oh, they sell this for this reason in the hospital, but on the street, it has this effect. That's taking off the functional fixedness in a negative way. But for you as a person, you've got a particular way that you see every one of your traits. And to really know which ones aren't working, which ones to let go of, which ones to transform into the next level is really, really important. It's so beautiful just to take a little bit of a pause, because we're going to dive into those really deeply a little bit further on. Those three, I feel, if you can get into the ability to see yourself in this way, if you're able to really let go of, but that's where they say beginner's mind. If you can get into a beginner's mind in every area of your life, then it begins letting go of the habit of confirming what you already know, the habit that is confirming what you believe in your subconscious mind. I can't wait to dive into the Dunning-Kruger effect that you have. What areas have you not seen your competence in, right? The girls that they were great moms in the retreat in Costa Rica. The leaders there were good moms to their children, right? They were competent in those areas. And they took things that their children said to be the evidence of them being great in other areas, right? They took what a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old said. It's interesting. It's important that you are listening to the 5-year-old, 7-year-old self inside yourself that decided you were competent in some areas, but incompetent in others. It's so funny. One of the retreat leaders said, "Oh my gosh, I'm the best, blah, 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 because my daughter said so." And that's so important to really get the damage that did and does to the group and to the individual and to yourself when you don't see yourself accurately. The hurt that comes into families, the hurt that comes into groups. And when you see yourself accurately, right, on the airplane, the woman that needed help, if I didn't overcome that barrier, right? And so funny, several times, 3 or 4 times now, I've been on airplanes where I've been the only doctor on the airplane. It was so funny to show up and do the treatments. You're the doctor to something. And for you to know what you're the doctor of, those women are great moms, just not great at setting up retreats in Costa Rica, or making it safe for people there. It's important to really step into what are you great at. The universe opens up for you there. The functional fixedness, right? This functional, if you can start using yourself in different ways. So those 3 we're going to dive into. The ones that we go extensively into within the year-long coaching program. These other areas we will try and dive into. And if you've got them in the private part where we're reading, whether we're looking at your hand or we're looking at the energy field or you're sharing a story with me and with the group here, we'll dive into the habit of not invented here. Right? If Apple makes it, right? If Apple makes it, it must be good. Versus, oh, if it was made in Africa, possibly that might be one of the biases, not invented here. I remember when made in Taiwan meant something, made in China, right? Means something. Made in Japan means something else. That's part of like this habit that we have. If you could know that you have a habit of thinking something's better because of branding, if you think branding actually makes something better, it's just marketers, right? You've got to know for yourself the areas in your life where you've been marketed to in a weird way, not invented here bias. The habit of seeing habitually going to sleep and seeing certain things as really, really good and certain things as really, really bad. If it came out of India, it must be good, right? If it came out of the United States, it must be good, rich. Then the 5th fifth habit, fifth letting go, what you really get into, the status quo bias, right? The habit of going with the flow, of knowing what everyone believes. This is the tendency to want things to stay relatively the same as they've always been, going with the flow. Until there was a 3-minute mile, people would say, oh my gosh, they would do the science, the research, right? Confirmation bias, the incompetence competence bias, the functionality fixedness bias. So it wasn't possible. No one had done it. So they were like status quo. They found the evidence for status quo. There is a challenge called the anchoring bias, the tendency to place excessive weight on the importance of one piece of information, often the first piece of information you learn about a topic. And so this anchoring, you anchored in a belief system. Japanese made goods are better or worse than China made goods. Italian goods are better or worse than American made goods, right? The anchoring bias, the tendency to place excessive weight on the importance of one piece of information, often the first piece of information that you learned, right? That anchoring bias. You, as an intuitive, can take a look at 2 different bags. It's so funny. But the fashion designing industry, right? They make something in Italy, it gets sent to China. China makes a duplicate. You can buy it on the streets. You don't know if it's better or worse. They could even make it better than the original bag in China with the branding label. I want to say that another way. You've got to get so present in the moment that you're able to see which is truly better for you. Each bag individually made in Italy or China, each tendency for information that's coming in. Oh, it came out of Harvard. Is that more valuable than the stuff that came out of Kastuba Medical College, the 3rd best medical school in India, right? You've got to do the research within your heart. You've got to connect and know this next one. When you know this next one, it's so funny. The curse of knowledge bias. When well-informed people are unable to look at an issue from the perspective of a less informed person. You've got to know that you have this habit of valuing, whether you see it on CNN versus Fox, right? That's so easy. Anchoring bias to see there. It's harder to see in your own life until you're working with someone or until you're really making time to learn for yourself what your habits are, what the clothing, invisible clothing that you're wearing, till it becomes visible to you. So that curse of knowledge, right? Well-informed people are unable to look at an issue from the perspective of a less informed person. That might be what's limiting you and your ability to have a juicy love life. It might be this one, the mere exposure effect. The tendency to look at something just because you're familiar with it. So we have a tendency when we're voting, right? This is why everyone is trying to get out there on the debate stages and in different places. Mere exposure effect. They show it takes you 21 times to see something before you will accept it in your life as present there. And if the bias, the habit before, if you know too much about the subject, you might not even take a look at the item, the thing, the new opportunity within you, the anchoring bias, right? And the curse of knowledge bias. So funny. Mere exposure. This is why commercials expose you over and over and over again on television to the same commercial. They know it's going to take you 21 times unless you yourself are tuning in to know yourself. Unless you yourself are working on and going, wow, what do I need to know? 4 billion bits of information you get per second. You can only register 2,000 bits per second, and those 2,000 are going to be based on your habits and what you've been exposed to before. Then we've got reactance, right? The urge to do the opposite of what you're being asked to do in order to preserve your freedom of choice. In other words, right? Reactance. Have you noticed all the commercials and ads out there that say, don't do this unless, right? Don't try this. Only meant for. They're using this reactance habit, bias. They found that basically 90% of people, if you say you can't do this or you can't have this for a limited time only, if the opposite, this is not for you words, right? In commercial ads, 90% of people will actually take a look at that thing that says this isn't for you or this may not be for you. You have that habit of the urge to do the opposite of what you're being asked to do in order to preserve your freedom of choice. We study this quite extensively, reverse psychology, right? In science, in medical school, in psychiatry. Then the system of justification bias, the tendency to try to actively maintain the status quo. The system justification bias. It takes a lot of these habits into account. And to some level, unless you are made aware of this, you and everyone you know are doing these 10 habits, these 10 ways of being in the world. These 10, this is what we're seeing in neurobiology. You go to sleep, parts of your brain, parts of you tend to not be fully awake and aware. And so becoming aware of this is half the battle. First, confirmation bias. Second, the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is incompetent people versus competent people. There are certain areas that you are competent in that you haven't given yourself credit for. Functional fixedness is the third one. The fourth one, not invented here. Then there's the status quo is the fifth one. The anchoring bias. The curse of knowledge bias. The mere exposure to effect. And then the ninth one, reactance, right? Reactance. To preserve your personal freedom. Then the 10th one, system justification bias. And it's so important. I'm going to stop the recording right here, and we'll dive into each one of these, and we'll dive into reading you, and we'll dive into so beautifully your ability to join and create and have the life that you want. I so want you to have this extraordinary life that you're here to have. I love you so, so much. I can't wait for us to get into your individual things and dive into those first three even more. So we'll stop the recording here and start going into the individual things. Again, my name's Dr. Sarah Larsen. I'm so grateful you're here. I am looking for the right participants for the year-long coaching program that we go into. Those that have been in the coaching programs come back and share and are happy to tell you themselves about the differences that being coached has made for them. A few of them might be here today, and so we'll bring them on board as well. Thank you for being here.